Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Hey, good morning, folks.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat.
Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are.
There it is, team. Morning. Morning, wherever you're tuning in from today.
Early bird gets the worm, they say. Here at Positive, we offer a 6-star team. It's a team that help you at every stage of your wealth creation journey.
General advice disclaimer. The information provided is general in nature and does not take into account your personal objectives, financial situation, or needs. Before acting on any information, you should consider whether it is appropriate for your circumstances and seek professional advice from a licensed financial advisor. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the information, it is not guaranteed. It is based on our understanding of regulations and laws as at the publication date. As these are subject to change, you should talk to a professional advisor for the most up-to-date information. Any examples or illustrations provided are for illustrative purposes only and are not a guarantee of future performance. We do not accept any liability for any loss or damage incurred by reliance on the information provided. Any opinions expressed are subject to change without notice. Past performance is not indicative of future results, and all investments carry risks. Neither the hosts, guests, nor any affiliated entities accept liability for any loss or damage arising from reliance on the information provided. By listening to this podcast and viewing this presentation, you acknowledge and agree to these terms.
Good morning, team. I hope everyone's well. Welcome to another episode of Wealth Coffee Chats on Thursday, all about financial planning. And I'm not going to keep you waiting. Let's get straight into it. So Div 296 tax, what is that? Let's uncover it. I think we've covered it before in the past, just to keep you aware, but now we have more information. So Division 296, what is it? Well, it's an extra tax on the super above 3 mil. So you might think, hey, hold on a second, 3 mil sounds like a lot of money. But, if you look at a long-term strategy from a superannuation perspective, you might actually be surprised and be in that position sooner than you realize. To give you a couple of examples, right, a lot of financial planning is to do with future benefits that you might be realizing, and that may include, investments, contributions into the super fund, inheritances and whatnot. And over time, ultimately, the aim is to grow that as much as possible. So when you retire, you actually have a good nest egg from which you can draw down on to cover your holidays, expenses, and whatnot, right? So long term, the idea is to get as much as possible into that space as you can. So 3 million, right? Sounds like a lot. I'll give you a couple of examples. Just had a recent conversation with one of my clients. They had a commercial property that they bought 10 years ago, doubled in value. So bought it for 1.5. It's now just above 3 mil, right? So from that perspective, you might think, oh, hold on a second, I'm not going to get to the 3 mil from where I am now. But realistically, with high inflation that we've been experiencing over the last couple of years, you will be surprised to see where you might end up in the next sort of 10, 15, 20 years. So, even if we were to scale it down to a very basic asset class like property, right? So you go back to let's just go back 25 years, early 2000s. How much was an average house in sort of Melbourne, in Sydney? In Melbourne was probably around 300,000. Now you're looking at a mil. So that's 3 times what you have purchased your asset for. So for someone who's a little bit younger and perhaps think, oh, this may not be applicable to me. Well, realistically, you should be considering that as part of your long-term strategy. And anyone who's also perhaps a little bit older and maybe closer to retirement, I guess contradicting factor could be, well, it's not applicable to me either because I might be at a much, much lower balance than 3 mil. Well, yes, but don't forget about inheritances, right? Again, I had a couple of clients that I spoke to over the last 2 weeks with large inheritances coming through to them, right? And if you want to be having discussions around, well, what do I do with that sum of money, right? So you got to start looking at structures, at tax, etc. And as we know, the tax within the super fund is the most efficient one so far at 15%, right? So coming back to Div 296, so now knowing this sort of background, what the proposal is and when it will kick in. So the proposal is essentially to increase the tax between different thresholds, right? So if you've got super balance above 3 million, let's just take it back a step. Between 0 and 3 mil, it's 15% tax, right? So we've known that for a long time. It's been like that for forever, right? So now from 3 to 10 mil, that tax is going to go up to 30%. And then from 10 mil plus, you're looking at 40% tax. So, and that's in each of your super balances, right? Again, sounds like too far-fetched, but you'd be surprised that there are many, many clients that are in this position, and they need to start thinking about it now, as opposed to down the track when it's already been realized. So previously, with this proposal, they were looking to tax unrealized gains. So essentially, if you earned, say, 200,000 on your investment in terms of capital, well, that would be taxed each year. So that's been scrapped, right? So they're going back to the more traditional way of when you sell, you make a gain, that's when we tax you, right? But one of the things that I wanted to kind of focus on today, because Div 296, like I think we've covered it a few times, but one thing I want to focus on outside of the caps, outside of the tax, is the death benefit portion of this tax ruling, right? So this will come in 1 July this year, so 1 July 2026, and there'll be a transitional year until 1 July 2027. Let me just pause for a second. Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for jumping on. Hopefully this is applicable to you. But let's stay on track. So transitional year, right? So if anything happens in that year and you sort of in that bracket of super fund balance, then it's kind of status quo, right? As previously has been, you get paid out your benefit, and then that's basically it. You cover any taxes and whatnot. However, right? And this is where I think it hasn't been really spoken about too much just yet, but I think it will become a future topic to be considering quite closely. And that is, well, what happens after 1 July 2027 and beyond? Well, what happens is that Division 296 tax is still applicable on the death benefits, right? So let's go through the motions, right? I've got an example here because I thought if we put numbers to it, it might be a little bit easier to understand. So let's just say your balance was about 4 mil at the time of from 1 July onwards. And then the individual that held that super fund passed away sort of part way through the year. And that 4 million generated about $200,000 in income for that financial year. So typically what would happen is the benefit would go to the spouse. The spouse would receive it and basically, wind up the super fund and move on, right? So previously that would have been the case, right? So like currently and status quo for another sort of say 16 months. So next financial year including. So status quo. Beyond this point, so beyond 1 July 2027, they will actually be saying, okay, well, the super fund has generated X amount of income. So in this case, I've got an example. The fund has generated $200,000 in income from rent, dividends, capital gains, etc. So basically all the accessible income. So what happens is that is then passed on to the executor of that benefit, right? So even though the account has been closed, the executor is still liable to go through the motions of working out the tax amounts and basically pay a tax bill on the back of it. And this is all part of the Division 296 provisions that you will not be accustomed to right now, but you will be in the future, right? So, and with, again, going back to the balances, it's very it will be not uncommon to, I believe, to see balances of north of a couple of mil moving forward, just with the exchange of assets, whether that's your parents' home through inheritance or other investments, equities that may have been held for a very long time. So this is very important to understand because you might be caught out on these fronts, and if you don't plan for it ahead, then you might be liable to pay unnecessary tax in that regard. So why am I telling you this now, right? Why am I telling you this now? Well, now is because you need to start planning for this well in advance. It's not something that you get to do during the year when it starts to all take off. You need to be really thinking about, all right, what are my thresholds? What are my limits before I need to have a different type of conversation with my advisor, with my accountant, maybe my solicitor, right? So because, well, what's the point of the solicitor? Well, solicitor will help you structure the estate planning documents in the right language so that the funds can flow through in the right direction. Let me pause there for a sec. Good morning, Kobe. Good morning. Do I host webinars and masterclasses? Well, I don't personally just yet, I guess. But you can find heaps of educational stuff on the positive real estate. There's plenty of different webinars that we run in the afternoons and evenings. So we also run a few pop-ups in different cities. So I know that there's one coming up in a couple of weeks in Melbourne, Brizzy, I believe, as well. I'm not sure about other states, but yeah, so you can always come along and sort of get exposure to different topics. But this one particularly, I do on Thursdays just to kind of cover off things around financial planning and certain things that you should be thinking about, and potentially, if it's applicable to you, apply to your situation. Obviously get advice. None of this is financial advice from me, even though I'm a licensed advisor. This is more for educational purposes, general in nature, but want to flag certain things that will become applicable to a certain group of people in the future. And so that's what this is all about. Hopefully that answers your question, Kobe. But yeah, if you have any questions throughout these podcasts, just let me know. Even if you're listening on repeat or via something else, just shoot a text there, and typically the team will pick that up and send it through to myself or to the other guys that do it on different days. So just in summary, Div 296 tax applicable to super balances above 3 mil and above, right? So are you going from 15% to 30% between 3 and 10 mil, and 10 mil above, you're looking at 40%. And one of the key things I wanted to highlight today is really the tax implication of this new tax that will be applicable moving forward, right? So a little bit early, but if you start looking into it and understanding it and give yourself time to process the information, then in the future you'll be better equipped to apply this knowledge to your circumstances as well. All right. So hopefully that made sense. If not, we can come back and revisit, but I'm trying to bring you like the latest stuff. This literally just came out in the last sort of couple of days, and maybe even just over a week really. So bringing you the latest stuff, and hopefully next week we'll have some more info for you on different topics. All right, guys, enjoy your Thursday, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6-Star team here at positivementor.com.au.